We were raised on a specific promise, the American dream. It was a simple mathematical equation. If you worked 40 hours a week, played by the rules, and gave your loyalty to a company, that company would provide you with a life of dignity. You'd own a home with a yard, a car that didn't break down every month, and the mental bandwidth to actually enjoy your family. But as we stand here in 2026, that promise hasn't just been broken, it has been pulverized. For the average American worker, the ladder of success has been replaced by a vertical glass wall that is slick with the sweat of a workforce that is running out of air. Walk into any coffee shop at 7 a.m. or look at the faces on the subway, and you won't see hustle and grind inspiration. You will see the 1,000-yard stare of a nation that is tired in its bones. We are the wealthiest country in history, yet we are arguably the most miserable workforce on the planet. Why? Because the hustle was supposed to be a season, but for us, it has become a permanent state of being. We are told we are lazy if we want a weekend, and we are told we are quiet quitting if we simply do exactly what our job description requires. This isn't a video about how to get a promotion or how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. This is a cold, hard look at the systemic rot that has turned the American workplace into a pressure cooker. We're going to peel back the layers of why you feel that pit in your stomach every Sunday night and why the best economy in the world feels like a nightmare for the people actually building it. The most gaslighting part of modern American employment is being told that wages are rising while your purchasing power is actively evaporating. You might have received a 3% or 5% raise last year, but when you walked into the grocery store or looked at your rent renewal notice, that raise was gone before it even hit your direct deposit. In 2026, the disconnect between productivity and pay has reached an absurd, unsustainable peak. Since the late 1970s, American worker productivity has skyrocketed, but real wages have essentially flatlined when adjusted for the actual cost of survival. We are doing more work, producing more value, and generating more profit for shareholders than any generation in history. Yet we are struggling to afford the basic pillars of a middle-class life. It's not just inflation, it's the fundamental devaluation of human labor. We are living in a subscription economy where every aspect of our lives, from the software we use for work to the cars we drive, requires a monthly fee that keeps us perpetually tethered to a paycheck. When the cost of a starter home in a decent school district is 10 times the average annual salary, the incentive to work hard vanishes. Why kill yourself for a job that cannot guarantee you a roof over your head? This financial claustrophobia creates a permanent state of low-level panic that the government's consumer price index fails to capture. You aren't bad with money. You are living in an economic system designed to extract your time while giving you just enough to survive until Monday morning. We are working harder than our parents did for a significantly smaller slice of the pie, and we are being told to be grateful for the crumbs. This gap isn't a mistake. It is a feature of a corporate landscape that prioritizes quarterly stock growth over the ability of its workers to afford bread and rent. Until the math changes, the resentment will grow. There was once a time when leaving the office meant your workday was officially over. Once you walked through your front door, your time belonged exclusively to your family, your hobbies, or yourself. Technology was sold to us as a tool of liberation, promising to help us work faster so we could spend more time living. Instead, it has turned our homes into satellite offices and our pockets into buzzing reminders of our professional obligations. Between Slack, Microsoft Teams, and urgent emails arriving at 9 p.m., the boundary between professional and personal life has been completely erased. Americans are now expected to be on at all hours, responding to pings and notifications as if every corporate task is a life or death emergency. This always-on culture has birthed a phenomenon known as time poverty. Even when we aren't physically working, we are psychologically tethered to the office because the device in our hand won't let us forget it. We have become a nation of emergency responders for spreadsheets and marketing decks. This constant state of hypervigilance keeps our cortisol levels spiked, leading to chronic stress, insomnia, and the haunting feeling we are never truly off the clock. While other nations have passed laws protecting a worker's right to disconnect, the American corporate culture views silence as a lack of ambition. If you don't answer a Slack message on a Saturday, you are labeled as someone who isn't a team player or lacks ownership. We have been conditioned to believe that our value as human beings is tied directly to our responsiveness. We are trading our fundamental peace of mind for marginal gains in corporate efficiency, and the trade-off is destroying our mental health. The digital leash doesn't just track our productivity, it strangulates our ability to rest, making the 9-to-5 a 24/7 psychological prison that follows us into our very bedrooms. In 2026, the fear of automation has transitioned from a distant sci-fi trope to an immediate professional threat. For decades, the American worker was told that education was the ultimate shield against job loss. A narrative was simple. If you obtained a degree and learned a specialized white-collar skill, you were safe from the mechanical arms that replaced factory workers. However, the rise of generative AI has flipped that script, targeting the creative and analytical middle class with surgical precision. Today, artificial intelligence can draft complex legal briefs, write functional software code, analyze massive medical data sets, and generate high-level marketing strategies in seconds. This has created a pervasive and paralyzing form of job insecurity that spans from entry-level positions to senior management. Companies are increasingly using the mere presence of AI as a psychological lever to suppress wage growth and demand higher output from their remaining human staff. We are witnessing a do more with less mandate, where a single employee is now expected to oversee the production volume previously handled by an entire department, all under the guise of AI-assisted efficiency. This does not make the job easier. It simply increases the velocity of deadlines and the sheer volume of responsibilities. The human elements of work, nuance, empathy, and long-term mentorship are being stripped away in favor of algorithmic optimization. Workers now find themselves in a demoralizing race against machines that do not require sleep, healthcare, or emotional support. The constant pressure to upskill at a pace that matches machine learning creates an environment of perpetual inadequacy. It is nearly impossible to find fulfillment or long-term career stability when you feel like a temporary placeholder for a bot. This ghost in the machine has turned the American office into a high-stakes survival game, where the reward for being productive is simply the fear that you'll be replaced by the very tools you were told would help you. We have all heard the adage that people do not quit bad jobs, they quit bad managers. In the modern American workforce, this has evolved from a workplace grievance into a systemic crisis of leadership. There is a massive, measurable void in the way American companies cultivate authority. Most managers in 2026 are trained extensively in metrics, deliverables, and optimization, but they possess almost no training in human psychology or basic empathy. This results in a corporate culture where employees are managed like hardware components rather than human beings. Most bosses are under immense pressure from their own superiors to hit increasingly impossible quarterly targets, and that concentrated stress trickles down directly to the front lines. Instead of leaders who inspire, protect, and advocate for their teams, we have taskmasters who monitor keystrokes, track active status on communication apps, and treat individual workers as mere data points on a spreadsheet. The total lack of psychological safety in the workplace is one of the primary drivers of why Americans now loathe their careers. When a manager focuses entirely on key performance indicators and ignores the mental well-being of the person behind the screen, the work becomes soul-crushing and mechanical. We spend more of our waking hours with our colleagues and supervisors than we do with our own families. Yet many workplaces have become cold, sterile environments where showing vulnerability or requesting a break is weaponized as a sign of professional weakness. Micromanagement has reached an all-time high thanks to intrusive surveillance technology that tracks every minute of the day. This fundamental lack of trust acts as a poison to the organizational culture. It kills morale, stifles genuine innovation, and makes every workday feel like a grueling march toward an inevitable burnout. We currently have a nation of workers who are being managed by a class of people who are just as stressed and unfulfilled as they are. creating a toxic feedback loop that transforms the traditional 9-to-5 into a psychological prison sentence. One of the most profound reasons Americans harbor a unique level of resentment toward their careers compared to workers in other developed nations is the healthcare trap. In the United States, the fundamental right to access medical care, see a specialist, or afford life-saving medication is inextricably linked to one's place of employment. This creates a modern form of corporate serfdom that effectively strips away a worker's leverage. As of 2026, millions of Americans are currently sitting in cubicles or remote offices at jobs they despise, working for supervisors they loathe, simply because they or their dependents have a pre-existing condition. They cannot afford to quit. They cannot afford to take a calculated risk on a new business venture, and they cannot afford a career gap because the loss of their insurance would lead to immediate financial ruin. This link between labor and physical survival turns the free market of employment into a total illusion. If you are terrified to leave your current role because your child requires insulin, your spouse is in physical therapy, or you are managing a chronic illness, you are not a free agent. You are a hostage. Employers are acutely aware of this dynamic. It allows them to push boundaries, demand unpaid overtime, and ignore toxic behaviors because they know the stakes of an employee leaving are catastrophically high. This golden handcuff effect prevents talented people from finding work that actually fulfills their potential or benefits society. Instead of a labor force driven by passion or innovation, we have a nation of people stuck in the wrong careers because they are terrified of the American medical billing system. This isn't just a career path. It's a desperate survival strategy. When your job becomes the only thing standing between your family and a six-figure medical debt, liking your job becomes a luxury you can no longer afford to consider. The psychological weight of this dependency turns every workday into a high-stakes negotiation for your basic health. In the modern landscape, we do not experience our careers in a vacuum. We experience them through the distorted lens of the digital age. Every time an American worker opens their phone during a lunch break, they are bombarded by a curated reality that makes their steady, honest labor feel like a profound failure. We are living in the era of the comparison trap, where the 24/7 news cycle and social media algorithms elevate a tiny fraction of lifestyle influencers, crypto millionaires, and tech moguls as the only standard for a successful life. These figures promote a brand of hustle culture that claims if you aren't waking up at 4 a.m. to ice bathe, meditate, and work 16 hours on a passion project, you are simply lazy. This creates a psychological environment where the mundane but essential work of society, teaching, nursing, accounting, or trades, is viewed as less than. We have been systematically conditioned to believe that if we aren't obsessed with our jobs every single day, we have failed the ultimate test of the modern American. This passion industrial complex is a predatory lie. Historically, work was a means to an end, a way to fund a life. By transforming careers into identities, the system has ensured that when your job is frustrating or tedious, you feel like you are failing as a human being. We see billionaires like Musk, Zuckerberg, or Jobs and are told that their extreme outlier outcomes are the baseline for winning. This hustle culture movement has successfully convinced a generation that rest is a sin and that any hour not spent monetizing a hobby is a wasted opportunity. This constant psychological warfare makes it impossible to find contentment in a normal, stable career. We are chasing a ghost of success that does not exist for 99% of the population, and the pursuit is leaving us chronically exhausted, bitter, and perpetually dissatisfied with the lives we have actually built. Despite the pervasive bloom of the current landscape, a profound shift is occurring within the American consciousness. We have reached a critical tipping point in 2026 where the old psychological contracts between employer and employee are being torn up in real time. This great reevaluation is no longer a temporary post-pandemic trend. It is a fundamental restructuring of the American workforce's priorities. Recent data highlights a stark divide. While 91% of workers still claim to be engaged, a significant 24% report being actively burnt out or struggling in their current roles. This exhaustion has triggered a mass movement toward quiet quitting, a state where employees remain in their positions but are psychologically unattached, putting in time rather than passion. This transformation is driven by a sobering clarity. Workers are realizing that their companies will have their job postings live before their obituaries are even drafted. This realization is not depressing, it is liberating. It has sparked a resurgence in collective bargaining and an uncompromising demand for structural changes such as the 4-day workweek and enhanced autonomy. In 2026, work-life balance has become the top predictor of job satisfaction for 61% of Americans, surpassing even salary for younger generations. We are seeing a rejection of the hustle-at-all-costs mentality that defined the previous decade. People are increasingly prioritizing work-life integration over the empty prestige of climbing the ladder. The reality of careers in the USA is currently stagnant, with hiring rates at historical lows and job growth concentrated in specific sectors like healthcare. However, the fact that we are finally speaking honestly about this systemic rot without the corporate filter is the first step toward reconstruction. We are moving toward a future where success is measured by the quality of one's offline life, the sovereignty to watch one's children grow, and the ability to sleep without the constant hum of professional anxiety. The American worker is finally choosing time over titles, signaling the end of an era of corporate devotion. Where does this comprehensive analysis leave the modern American worker? We have dissected the predatory math of the affordability gap, the digital leash of the 24/7 office, the encroaching shadow of AI, the crisis of empathetic leadership, and the structural trap of employer-sponsored healthcare. The picture is undeniably grim. However, understanding the systemic why behind your professional dissatisfaction is the only way to stop the destructive cycle of self-blame. You are not broken because you find 40 hours of staring at a flickering screen to be soul-crushing. You are not unmotivated because you refuse to spend your Sunday evenings prepping for a Monday morning meeting that could have been an email. You are a human being with a finite amount of time on this earth, and you are reacting rationally to an irrational, extractive system. As we move forward, the goal should no longer be to find the perfect job, because within this specific economic framework, such a thing is often a statistical impossibility. The true objective is to reclaim your identity from your employer. This requires setting boundaries that will feel uncomfortable in a culture that prizes overwork. It requires realizing that your productivity is the least interesting thing about you as a person. Whether you are a Gen Z worker just entering this volatile market or a seasoned professional trying to survive until retirement, the message remains the same. The system is designed to take exactly as much as you are willing to give. It will never tell you that you have done enough. It is entirely up to you to decide where the line is drawn. Stop waiting for a better economy or a kinder boss to start living your life. The traditional American dream may be dead, but something more honest and sustainable can be built in its place. Once we stop pretending the old model works, your value is not a derivative of your paycheck or your job title. Take a breath, close the laptop, and go reclaim the time that belongs to you.